us with no other option than to act upon it. Resolution 2625, Resolution 1441, and Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. These are all breaches, international laws that Saddam Hussein has breached. We were left with no other option. Sanctions were passed, even negotiations were attempted. And yet, nothing seemed to change. People were constantly dying and being tortured. Something had to be done. The US was not going to idly stand by and watch this thing continue. Yes, now, I just want to point out something out to the court. And I'm sure the prosecution would probably agree. Had the US not stepped in, Saddam Hussein he still would have been sitting in his chair today, tormenting people and performing his acts of tyranny and persecution. Thousands upon millions of people would have died to this day had we not stepped in, had we not done something about it. Moreover, the Iraq War was our last and final option. All the acts permitted by the US government, everything was done only for the betterment of the society as a whole, the international community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Very well. Would the prosecution like to call their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Mr. Benjamin Franks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Franks, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Now, could you please tell the court about your credentials?
Well, I was the head prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials.
Yes.
I've been practicing law for quite a long time.
Yes.
I've graduated from the Harvard University Law School.
Very well.
And I have dealt with several cases in my years of practice.
Excellent. So, sir, would it be fair to say that you're an expert in international law?
Well, according to the study, I would say so.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to give something to Mr. Franks to read, but it's Appendix A. Could you please check this, Your Honor?
Very well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Franks, this is the United Nations Charter. Could you please read us Article 2, Section 4, please?
Members shall refrain from their international relations from the threat of the use of force against the territorial integrity and political independence of any state, or in any manner inconsistent with the purpose of the United Nations.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, in other words, no country is to use force against another sovereign nation unless permitted by the UN Security Council. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Considering the 2003 invasion of Iraq by the United States and assistance of Britain and other nations, would you say that the U.S. breached this section of international law?
I would say so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, another issue, sir. Unjust war.
Very important.
Furthermore, concept of unjust war. Could you please explain to us the situation before the U.S. invaded Iraq? And those few weeks what was going on in the United Nations, what was going on in the international community? Could you please tell us a little bit about that?
Well, according to the United Nations...
Can you speak up a little bit? I don't think the rest of the tribunal...
Sorry. According to the United Nations,
yes.
Iraq as well as the United States and weapons of mass destruction. There's some very important activity going on. We can tell that the United Nations sent inspectors into Iraq
Permitted by Saddam Hussein.
after serious negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
Serious negotiations took place,
Mm-hmm.
and after serious negotiations, Saddam allowed for inspectors to come into Iraq.
Yes.
And after close to 11 weeks of inspection, they found that there was no weapons of mass destruction.
No signs of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
No, there was a little bit of misunderstanding of some things here and there, but no weapons of mass destruction.
Thank you very much. And Your Honor, I have documents showing this is a full report of the inspection that took place in Iraq. I would like to give that in as evidence.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Franks, there is another issue at hand. The United States and Mr. President Bush stated over and over again that one of his main arguments for entering Iraq was preemptive self-defense. What do you have to say about that?
Well, this is a very important point because I believe that this argument is very weak because
Very weak.
because I believe that since there was no weapons of mass destruction,
Yes.
then what did the USA need to go into Iraq?
Yes.
There was no need for them to act upon the concept of preemptive self-defense.
Yes.
We see that since as the report that you have entered in, it says that there is no weapons of mass destruction. Why does the USA have to go in?
Thank you very much.
The USA was not justified according to the concept of preemptive self-defense.
Yes.
No, according to that point, according to that argument, they were not justified in
Mhm.
going into Iraq.
Thank you. And Mr. Franks, in your opinion, as the head prosecution of the Nuremberg trials, is what we're doing today not exactly like what happened in Nuremberg trials? We're putting the Americans, the guilty people, just like the Nazis, on the bench?
Objection! Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is making false accusations and misleading the tribunal.
Sustained. Would the tribunal please take that off the records?
Sorry, Your Honor. Counselor. Let's just disregard that statement, sir. Mr. Franks, I read in one of your articles recently that you wrote something about the fact that President Bush should be tried along with Saddam Hussein. Did you or did you not write this, sir?
Yes, an article that I wrote close to 6 weeks ago.
Yes.
I wrote that because of two things. Well, Saddam Hussein,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, he was, as we can see now, he was in breach of international law,
And domestic law as well.
and domestic laws as well.
Yeah.
But for the most part, for our concern, he was in the breach of international law.
Yes.
And the reason I said President Bush was because President Bush was not justified in going into the Iraq War.
Mhm.
That's according to Article 2, the concept of war of aggression.
Yes.
And the second point is the preemptive self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
As explained before, and I also explained this in the article. I believe that the Iraq War,
Mm-hmm.
Bush was not justifying himself correctly
Yeah.
in going into the Iraq War. I believe that he and his regime could have done a better job in trying to come up with a better justification of the war.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you. And I quote from the article, as you've already stated, but just for record. George W. Bush should be tried for war crimes along with Saddam Hussein.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, to collect the stuff we talked about in this hearing, the United States was in breach of Article 2 of the UN Charter.
Correct.
The United States argument of preemptive self-defense was very weak.
Correct.
you feel as an expert in international that the Bush and his administration perhaps should be tried along with Saddam